no trouble.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gloria Lau, and let's talk about how do you build a data-driven culture with Spark. So I got a nice intro. This is a little bit about me. I now work at Google. Last month, I worked at a startup called Timeful, and that was recently acquired by Google. At Timeful, we built a smart calendaring app, and that's where we built Spark. Before that, I used to run part of data science at LinkedIn, and this talk, a lot of this is going to be based on my experience at LinkedIn, Timeful, and a little bit at Google. So when I got the invite from the Spark people, the Sparklings, you people need to come up with a name for yourself. So when I got an invite on this talk, I started thinking, how can I bring value to the community? What should I talk about? I can talk about how we built a recommendation monitoring framework on Spark. That's interesting, but I figure you're going to hear a lot of technical talks and use case and studies anyway. And that's not even the most interesting insight we got in our Spark journey. So what I decided on is to give you a no-tech talk, complete fluff. And this is helpful if you ever need to sell Spark to your CEO. There are lots of assumptions in what I just mentioned, but so if you ever need to sell Spark to your CEO, and assuming your CEO doesn't take all the cool kids are doing it as an answer, then this talk could help you. Now, what do CEOs like to hear? You hear this all day on news. We aspire to be more data-driven. We want to be more data-driven. Every company says this. What exactly is data-driven? How do you be more data-driven? So I should have a sidebar on the slide here that says A/B testing, because most CEOs, when they say data-driven, they say, oh, we run A/B test, especially when you think product development, like a red button or a blue button, how do we figure out what to do on our site? You A/B test the hell out of it. That's not nearly the answer to data-drivenness. If you've ever built a product, you realize how A/B experiments are fairly intensive, be it at a big company or a little company, especially when your A/B experiment involves front-end components. Before you even get to your A/B experiment, there are lots of decisions you need to be making. And hopefully those decisions are based on data. And what do you do when you want to be making decisions on your data? Typically, you have your product manager, your PM, or your engineer, depending on who makes the call, or a designer. So that person, they want their decision to be based on data, which means they want someone to dig in the data. They want someone to run some deep analytics. They want to explore the data to figure out what to put on the site, to figure out what kind of data product to show on the site. So when companies aspire to be more data-driven, typically it means that there are lots of iterative exploration in your data to try and figure out, see what kind of usage patterns you currently have, and that would inform your decision. That's what typically data-driven means. Now, what do companies do? How do they implement data-drivenness? I should have a sad face here. Clearly, I'm not a designer. That's why there isn't one. But commonly, when companies want to be more data-driven, they go and hire more data scientists. In a big company, you'll hear CEOs say, oh, we're going to hire 200 data scientists this year. In a little company, your board member will be forcing you to say, you need a data scientist to look into your data. Once they hire these data scientists in-house, they turn them into SQL monkeys. Sad face. We don't want that to happen. Wrong. I'll tell you why it's wrong. So the problem with that approach is threefold. By far, the biggest issue with that implementation is that you actually want everybody to be digging into your data. You want everybody who is capable, who wants to dig in your data, to dig in your data. You don't want a SQL monkey as a proxy to your data. And this brings me to my second point. If you have SQL monkeys to access your data, your innovation cycle is actually really long. So we see this time and time again. Your product manager wants to run some numbers. Goes and tells the SQL monkey, hey, can you pull this number for me? Can you run this funnel analysis with this type of user segment? The SQL monkey, I should call that data scientist. This data scientist go and run this report, come back to the product manager, explains. The PM says, oh, what about this? And then they iterate this way. So you see how this innovation cycle is very long because you inadvertently have to iterate a lot with your data before you find that answer, and you don't want a proxy to the data. And thirdly, and very sad, another sad phase, monkeys do not last. I can guarantee you that monkeys typically don't actually like to be SQL monkeys. They have better things to do. So how do you be truly data-driven? Very easy. Very easy. Just say no to job descriptions. This is easier said than done. How do you say no to job descriptions, right? How do you get product managers, designers, your non-engineers to actually start digging into data? Well, you're here. This is how. So we ran a little experiment on ourselves. We tried to get everybody to dig into data, and we actually put in Spark. And I'll tell you why this is so important in their learning experience from a non-engineer to be more data-driven. You have to believe me when I say this. Most people in your company, they actually want answers from your data. And most people in your company, they are actually capable of finding that answer in your data given the right tool. Your product manager, your designer, your non-data engineers, they indeed want answer. They indeed want to get their hands dirty. They are capable of doing that if you give them the right tool. So your goal obviously becomes that you want to find the right tool. You want to give them the tool to reduce friction to your data. Now, by far the biggest friction to digging into data, to getting your hands dirty in your data for a newbie is lack of speed. Imagine your favorite search engine, let's say Google, my current employer. Imagine Google's response time to your query is 10 seconds. What do? One, you make your decision based on fewer data points, right? Two, you don't run many iterations in your query because it's slow. And the most important information here is this. Your SQL monkeys, they are born to dig into data. So they typically would be more willing to sit with lack of speed. Your newbies, if they want to be learning to be data-driven, if they want to learn to dig into data, lack of speed is a killer. They never go beyond, oh, I have to wait 5 seconds for this query to return results. Never mind. I'm going to find an expert to do that. And you're back at that really long innovation cycle. So what we did at Timeful, the little startup that was just acquired by Google, was that we ran an experiment. And this is a nice little A/B test on ourselves. So what we did was we killed a SQL monkey by turning everybody into SQL monkeys, into their own SQL monkeys. So we implemented Spark. We give all our PMs, designers, everybody access to Databricks. We showed them how it works. It was very simple. And we started to see that our product managers, our designers, they are actually technical. Some of them write Python code. Some of them can learn SQL. And honestly, SQL is not something that's difficult to learn. So in their learning process, what we observe is that they have to fail fast. They have to iterate. They have to learn from examples. They learn from other people's workbooks. They copy a little snippet of Python query, and they run it in their own browser, and they change some variables, and they return results instantly. And they visualize, and they inspect the data, and they fail again. So you see that iteration is very rewarding for your non-engineers too. And here you just have to trust your team that they're capable. Our product managers, our designers, our non-engineers, they're actually capable of finding answer in the data if you give them the right tool. And one of the interesting experiment results in our experiment is this. So we run a very close to A/B experiment on ourselves. We have Spark implementation for our non-engineers. We have no Spark implementation for our non-engineers. I can't walk into details why we have this other thing, but this is the result. When we implemented Spark, when everybody is on Databricks, they're all very happy. My product manager came to me, and he started doing this analysis on intention lifecycle. And he ran into deep analysis himself. He needed very little time from my data scientist. And my designers start to look into interaction flows of users, too. So happy face here. Now, we had to take down Spark for, again, unspoken reasons. And you literally see this. Our data-drivenness, if there is such a term, went like that. My product manager came and talked to me and said, oh, I don't know how to write this query. This is not returning results. I have to optimize it. I need some time from your data scientist. I'm like, where are we in 1990s? He was very sad when we had no Spark, when we had to pull out Spark for a while. And he started slowly distancing himself from data because he just doesn't want to wait. Now, you've heard from me why Spark matters to non-engineers too. Of course, you're going to hear all day long from other case studies on data scientists. They can build model faster, yada, yada, yada. Feature engineering and modeling and evaluation, all of these are much happier. You don't need to hear that from me. But in short, what we notice is that our innovation cycle is a lot shorter because everybody have access to data. You don't need a designated SQL monkey. You never hire enough data scientists, and you can never lock them up to be SQL monkeys. You don't want them to be a proxy to your product manager, to your designers. Now, everybody can dig into data and run their own analysis. Sometimes they need help, but the help they need, it's a lot fewer compared to before we had a Spark implementation. So what did we learn today? Every company aspires to be data-driven. You hire SQL monkeys. That's not how it goes. Because one, there isn't enough data scientists in the market. Two, even if you hire them, you probably don't want to turn them into SQL monkeys. Three, oftentimes they want to be focusing their time on more machine learning or more recommendation product building type of feature rather than answering someone's query on data. So that's not how you want to implement a data-driven culture. What you actually want is to democratize your data by removing friction. You want everybody in your company, and that includes your non-engineers, your product managers, your designers. You want all of them to be able to access your data. You want all of them to be forming their own insights about data and go and test it and iterate through that data without needing a crutch. And in shopping for that tool, speed is the only thing that you should care about. Because for newbies, for people who are learning to be accustomed to data, lack of speed kills it for them. So hopefully in this talk, you learn how to make everybody a SQL monkey, and we all live happily ever after. Thank you.